here. She's in traffic. She will come, so we'll play musical chairs. I'll start, and then she can take over, just so you know what will happen when she comes. But we are going to start being at July 15th at 5:15 with a quorum. I'm calling this Public Health and Safety Committee meeting to order, and we will start with minutes of the previous meetings. We have both 6/17/19 and 6/25/19. They were in your packet. Any changes, any additions, or if, go ahead, Pat.
I had some grammatical things, just phrasing that I emailed Mary about, and she was gracious enough to change. They didn't change the meaning of anything, and I would move to approve.
Thanks. Second by Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Number 2, consider approval or denial of various license applications. Those are in your packet, and we don't have any denials, do we?
No, we have.
Is there?
We do have a couple of denials listed. There is one for James Lake for public transportation and Michael Prue for public transportation.
Do we have James Lake here that wants to address the committee? James Lake? Michael Prue? Is there Michael Prue here? Seeing that no one has come forward, we will just go with...
If I just may address, the liquor license subcommittee did give approval for Lemongrass Asian Fusion LLC. It's a new business that's going to be going in what was formerly the J. Gumbo's. And Nucci Eatery is the one that is going to go into what was formerly Wanda's Chapter 2. And the final one is for North Central Technical College to have a Class B beer and wine for their culinary arts program. All of these licenses were approved through our liquor license subcommittee meeting. And let's see, commercial pedal cab license was in your packet for Street Grins, Jeffrey Burke, and also the pedal cab operator, Joshua Yeager. And then the only special event class that's listed is More Than Pink Walk. Oh, and then one more, Class 2, is the 885 Family Wausau Fun Stop. Those are the staff recommendations to approve as listed.
Any questions? Go ahead, Pat.
In the special events, there were 3 of them, I think. Family Thing, All Stars, and Susan G. Coleman. There was on the first one, the mayor signed that he approved or had no objection, but there's no box checked, so we probably should just confirm that that's what he meant. And in the last one, the Susan Coleman, the same thing, only the health department didn't check the box.
A lot of times this report is run prior to those approvals all coming back because they go to many, many departments. If you grant these, nothing gets issued without all those reviews anyway.
Very good. I would move to approve. I think it's a good batch.
Second by Dawn. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Those all have been approved, and her fearless leader is almost here.
Fearless.
She's hurrying along. I already told them that we were going to play musical chairs when you got here, so they know.
Parking was kind of at a premium out front.
So we're starting number 3.
Okay,
Correct.
cool. Thank you.
And I will address 2 items here.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We are up to item number 3 on our agenda, which is consider request to hold annual St. Arnoul outdoor party on July 20th, 2019 at Bob and Randy's Bar, 1515 6th Street, and the petitioners are Randy and Thomas Strobel. And do we have, come on up, talk to us about the annual St. Arnoul's Festival.
I think you all got a packet Okay, and it's just so,
I think they did.
it's just
Yep,
an
yep.
afternoon party for our regular customers and whoever wants to come. Just have
Sounds
food
good.
and beer and,
Yep, and you normally notify all the neighbors?
Yes,
And you've
we
got
do.
them all
Yes.
wristbanded and whatnot in the
Yes.
outside area?
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
All right. Go ahead, Tony.
I have one comment to make on behalf of the deputy fire chief. He said it's public knowledge, so I can say this. It's kind of sad, but Maine Fire Department is on fire. So they're
no.
evacuating, and many of our fire trucks are there. So
Are there?
anyway, if I
Oh.
can get back to your issue, he said that everything was approved through Dave DeSantis. So that was the
Okay.
contribution from the fire department.
we do have
Okay.
fire extinguishers too in the lot.
Are you bringing them up to Maine? Is
No, if they would need me, I would.
Jeepers.
Yes.
Okay.
The fire station is on
Well,
fire.
Well, then we understand why he had to go.
Yes.
That's fine. Do we have a motion then to approve the St. Arnul's event? Motion by Herbst, second by McElhaney. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed, so that motion carries. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much.
Item number 4 is consider application for central business obstruction permit for a sidewalk sign at 219 Jefferson Street, and the petitioners are the Wausau Central Wisconsin CVB. And you'll recall that with a number of businesses downtown in the River District, we allow them to have these little sandwich board signs as long as they can get them out of the way in a hurry if they need to, and they're not blocking the flow of the sidewalk. And you've got some information on that in your packets. Does anyone have questions on that sign? If not, is there a motion to approve the permit? Motion by Kelbach, second by Peckham. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None are opposed, so that motion carries as well. Item number 5 is the operations report from the fire department, but since we don't have the deputy chief with us, we can hold, I guess if no one has questions on the report, we can just place that report on file.
He did say he has nothing to add.
He had nothing to add, okay. And so if we have questions for him about anything that we've seen on this report or on next month's report, we could certainly hold those questions and ask them at the next meeting. So if the committee is amenable to that, we'll place the fire department report then on file under option 5. And then, let's see here. We've got, our next item then is item number 6, is a hearing. Christine Marie Clark, owner on appeal of a dangerous animal declaration dated June 25th, 2019 for her dog Montana. We have that item posted for closed session deliberation and open session action. Do we have Christine Clark with us this evening? Come on up, Ms. Clark. Have you brought other witnesses with you to testify?
Nobody was there except for my 9-year-old daughter.
Okay. Well, if you're the only one testifying on your behalf today, that's fine. We have the Humane Officer, Ashley Bishop, with us also on the city's behalf, and Officer Bigger. If you guys would also come up, we'll have the clerk swear you all in together, and then we'll start the hearing.
Hi, everybody. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did. Yes.
Okay. I'll start with you, Christine. If you would come to the microphone, state your name and your address, please.
Christine Marie Clark, 512 Hamilton Street,
Thank you.
Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403.
Thank you. An officer?
Officer Joshua Bigger, Wausau Police Department, 3178.
Thank you. And Humane Officer Bishop, please?
Humane Officer Ashley Bishop, City of Wausau and Everest Metro.
Thank you very much. Those giving testimony have all been sworn in.
Thank you. Let me get the hearing documents open here. Let's see here.
You can sit down, Christine, for a little bit. When we do ask you to speak, though, we do want it at the podium.
We'll actually have her up first. With regard to some housekeeping items with the hearing, just to clarify, now you did receive written notice of today's hearing. You've also received a copy of a letter indicating that Montana had been declared a dangerous dog as issued by the humane officer?
Yes.
And you've received a copy of the ordinance and the requirements?
Yes.
Okay. And so I read your appeal. We've got that in our packets as well. And in your appeal document, you had stated that you're willing to comply with certain parts of the ordinance. It looks like you've already had some discussion with the humane officer on fencing because you've purchased a kennel and you're renting. You don't own your home. So there's been some concession there already. I guess if you could start off, the committee has the police reports, they've got photos of the victim's injury. Talk to us a little bit about why the dangerous dog designation is a problem and what parts of it you feel you can't comply with. This is certainly not a prohibited dangerous declaration. It doesn't mean that Montana can't live in Wausau. If he were a prohibited animal, you'd have 5 days to move him out, but in this case, you can keep him. You just need to comply with some additional requirements.
Okay. Well, for the muzzle and just him being on a leash like all the time, he wouldn't be able to swim or go to dog parks or do anything that he does all the time. I understand that he needs to be on a leash, and he will be, like, without, just for him to be able to swim or go to the dog park, I understand he needs to be on a leash when he's walking or in the yard or stuff like that.
Well, Wausau has a leash law that requires that you have him leashed. In fact, he was in violation of that the night that the incident happened, correct?
Right.
Okay.
My daughter had him, and she was not supposed to have him off a leash, and that did happen. I have nothing to say about that. It happened, and she knows that she was wrong. Don't know why she did it. She had him off the leash, and that did happen.
How old is your daughter?
9.
Okay.
I can't afford the insurance policy. I guess getting him neutered wouldn't be a big thing, but he is a really good dog, and we did want him to have at least 1 litter of puppies, but like I said, that's not a big issue. The fencing isn't a big issue. He's been out there once or twice. He doesn't mind it. I don't care about having to have an adult control him at all times. That's will happen no matter what. I guess just the big issue is with him not being able to swim or play catch or anything like that, and for the insurance policy.
Okay.
And being, sorry.
Well, and I guess, have you had, the committee has received the report from the humane officer, and we've received your appeal document, but it's my understanding that there have been other altercations with this animal before. Is that correct? Has there been a previous bite?
When he was still a puppy, under a year old, my dog is my mom's dog, Puppy, so she had him until he was a year old, and while he was in her care, he did go up and bite my niece. He didn't break her skin open or anything like that. He did leave marks, but he didn't break the skin, and that was the only time he's ever done anything, and that he was under a year old. I believe that he was just being a puppy then. He didn't mean to hurt her or anything like that.
This particular event happened, though, when there was a situation where one child was chasing another child?
My niece was chasing my daughter.
Okay. Was that the case that happened with the first bite as well? Someone was running from this dog or running in front of this dog and caught its attention, or?
I think they were just all playing, and he wanted to play. They were running, and I'm sure that's probably what caught his attention, because he wanted to play.
I guess my question is, what happens if, this dog is out loose and someone runs by and catches his attention in the future, and he's maybe not leashed or not, under the proper control? If we would not uphold this designation, if being chased or someone running in front of him or running from him is a trigger, that caused this event that happened at Franklin School, what happens if that happens and someone's running past your house on the sidewalk and this dog, is not properly contained?
Honestly,
what measures would you take to prevent future events?
He's only going to be in the care of either me or my oldest daughter or my mom, of an adult. But honestly not on a leash a lot. He listens very good and he stays right by us. He's on a leash when we walk on the trails and stuff like that, but he sees people running all the time and he don't go
But
after nobody
You
running.
know that Wausau's leash law requires that your dog be leashed when it's out in your yard, too.
Right. Oh,
Yeah, no?
I didn't know that.
Your yard isn't
I mean,
fenced, though?
now, since this happened, he has been, but I wasn't aware that he had to be
Oh, he does not.
on a leash in the yard.
Okay. I thought he had to be leashed whenever.
As long as he's under control, if he's on his own
Okay.
property.
Okay. But the dangerous dog declaration imposes the leash requirement full-time?
Correct.
Okay, all right, yep, and that's my reading here as well. Okay, committee members, do you have any additional questions for Ms. Clark about the incident or about the situation? We got some photos in the packets as well. No one else has questions? Okay.
Can I ask her?
You can, absolutely. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm the Assistant City Attorney. I'm Tara Alfonso. I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I read the police report, and it appeared that you told Officer Bigger at the time who came to talk with you that your family believed that Montana had an issue with children running past it. Is that accurate?
Not that he had a problem with children running past. I think it was with explaining that incident that happened when they were running around.
Which incident, the current
With-
one or the one?
The first one with my niece,
Okay.
when he was a puppy.
And did you tell Officer Bigger that you make efforts to supervise the dog around children before this current incident?
We make sure that he is on his leash when anybody's around because of the first one and just because, I mean, the kids are in the yard without him being on a leash all the time, but we just want to be there.
And you indicated earlier when you started talking that your daughter didn't have him on the leash at the Franklin School playground. Is that a rule you have for her, that the dog is supposed to be on a leash if she takes him out?
Yeah, because she's little for one, and she just has to have, he should be on a leash.
Okay. Do you
Usually
know,
the only time he's not on a leash is when he's at the dog park or swimming or when we're just right there by him and we're sitting on the porch or in the yard or something like that. But when we're walking him, he's usually always on a leash when we're walking him because of other dogs and stuff like that.
well, those were the only questions I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. One other question I had regarding the police report. You said that, well, I guess, in the interview with you that you had with the responding officers, you had indicated that the people who were on the scene when the bite took place identified that the bite that the child had sustained was just a dot and was barely bleeding. Were you unaware of the extent of this injury when this happened, or?
Yeah, she said she didn't see that it was that bad.
Okay,
My 9-year-old did.
okay.
I was aware when Nevaeh's aunt came to the door and showed me pictures.
Okay.
And that's when I went back in and I said exactly what happened. And then she told me.
Okay. And now, I guess with Montana being off leash, has he been picked up ever as a stray and brought back?
Once.
Okay. Once? Only once? Okay. All right. Ms. Herbst, go ahead.
Madam President, I just have a question or need clarification. Montana, it's with your daughter. The gal that was bitten, is there any relation to
No, they're kids that live next door.
kids that live next door?
Yeah.
So in other words, this child is also very used to Montana, or Montana would be used to her?
She kind of picks on him a little bit, but yeah, she's been in the yard with him playing even since then.
Why do you think he attacked her like he did?
I'm pretty sure it's because my daughter was riding her scooter and Montana was alongside of her, and then Nevaeh was on the other side of her asking her if she wanted to race, and my daughter was saying no. They argue back and forth, and at that time they were not friends or whatever, and she was saying that no, she don't want to leave her alone, and then Nevaeh came and just stopped right in front of them both, and then he took and he bit her one time. So I think maybe he felt threatened.
What do the parents feel about this? Because it looks like a pretty nasty bite, requiring, what, 22 stitches?
Yeah.
What are the parents, what are their thoughts about this?
Her mom won't talk to me. Her aunt just basically, they just don't say anything. I express so sorry, and that I know that I'm sorry, I ain't cutting it, but
Yeah, especially since he wasn't on a leash.
was like, yeah, you're right,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Pat.
You mentioned a couple of times that you've taken the Montana to the dog park and swimming. We don't have a dog park.
We go to Weston.
Okay.
We go to a dog park in Weston,
Okay.
and then I take them swimming off the island at Oak Island.
It's like out to Oak Island, they swim there?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to find out, because if this were to be upheld, I don't know, maybe one of the officers could say whether you'd be allowed without any conditions to continue to go to the Weston Dog Park or the Rib Mountain Dog Park. I'm not sure. And there would be other places, outside the city to swim. So maybe when Officer Bishop or whatever gets up here, they could respond to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other committee members have questions for Ms. Clark? If not, you can have a seat, Ms. Clark, in front there, and we'll recall you if there's additional questions.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll bring up Officer Bigger. If you'd like to walk us through your interaction with the situation, we've got your report.
Okay. My interaction with the victim, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the dog was present also when you responded, or did you respond to the
I responded
hospital?
initially to the emergency room.
Okay.
And so I met with the victim and her mother at the
Okay.
emergency room first. That's where I took the photos of the bite itself. It hadn't been treated yet in any way. After I was there, I returned and got the bike from the park, took the photos of the scene,
Okay.
and then I returned the bike to the house, and then I met with Christine.
Okay. And let me just see here. Committee members, do you have any questions for Officer Bigger? Okay. And in your interaction with her, I guess I've read some of the narrative of your report here. Had you had any interactions with the residents or this animal prior pertaining to the dog, Montana?
I personally did not.
You have not? Okay. All right. And let me just see if there was anything else here. I thought I had another question. I think Ms. Clark answered that one. Okay. Any additional questions? Tara, go ahead.
Just a couple. Thank you, Officer Bigger. You prepared an incident report in this matter, number 195794.
Correct.
Okay, and as far as you know, that information is accurate to
Yes, it
the
was.
best of your belief? And you reported in that report that you saw the victim had 3 lacerations, each several inches long?
Yeah, the longest was definitely several inches long. Like I said, it hadn't been treated yet, so it was difficult to see the exact, length of each laceration. There was blood and dried blood all around each of the wounds, but there was definitely 3 distinct marks, and it appeared to be quite deep.
Yeah, you stated in your report you believed it went into the muscle tissue.
Yes, it was well past the initial layers of skin.
Subsequent to being at the hospital, did you ever get information as to how many stitches or anything that were required?
No, I did not.
Okay. And you took a photo also, I guess you went back to the park and took a photo of some blood stains at the park? But how long had it been from the time of the bite until you went back to the park? Do you know?
I don't know exactly, but it would have been approximately 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because I'm not sure exactly the moment the bite happened. I know that the child waited for a period of time at the park for her mother to come pick her up. Then they went to the hospital, and then I responded to the hospital. So then it had to have been at least a half an hour.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
I haven't either, so thank you. You can be seated. Humane Officer Bishop. And we also have your report. I guess describe your interactions with Montana. It sounded in your report like you had seen him stray more than once.
Yes. So due to our new system, and well, it would have been frankly quite difficult anyway. In our previous system, a couple years ago, we would actually have several calls. I had a span of time of probably a month to 2 months where it was every day, every other day, I would get a call, black dog running in the neighborhood up on the northwest side of town. And every time I knew it was Montana. Sometimes I could catch them, sometimes I couldn't. That lasted for a period of time, and then I hadn't heard of him running, and then there had been maybe 1 or 2 times since then that I had gotten reports of Montana running. I have not had anything for probably, this is my estimation, maybe a year and a half, where he has not been running, but I did have a span of time where he had been running very frequently.
Okay. And I guess based on that and the severity of the injury and the fact this is the second bite, it looks like those were the supporting reasons for your declaration.
Correct.
You had already had some interaction with Ms. Clark about the fence and her purchasing of the kennel and whatever. And it looks like you had also cited her for animal at large and no license. Is that?
Those were
Officer Bigger's citations?
Yep.
Okay. And do we have any information on, it looked like the quarantine took place at the Humane Society?
Correct.
Do we have any information on how his interaction was with the staff at the Humane Society or how he reacted with you?
He was always a little shy and standoffish, but never aggressive.
Okay.
And I mean, even when I would have to chase him, when he was running loose, it usually took a good can and a half of wet cat food and me throwing it at him to lure him in. And that was if I could catch him. It kind of got to the point where I stopped going and looking for the dog so much as I went to the house and told whoever was there. And it usually was not Christine. But I would tell whichever adult, hey, go get Montana, because he listened better to them than me.
Okay.
But he was never aggressive with me.
Okay. All right. Committee members, do you have any questions for Humane Officer Bishop? Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, to the question I asked earlier, your jurisdiction extends to the D.C. Everest District and the Weston Dog Park.
No, he will not be allowed there because they have the same ordinance that we do, where animals that have been declared dangerous in another jurisdiction cannot come in.
Okay, so if she wanted someplace to let the dog run, let the dog swim, she'd have to find someplace else.
Yeah, I can tell you Red Mountain is out of the question. They have a similar ordinance. City of Schofield, which I cover, Village of Weston. Obviously, the 3 parks, which are off-leash dog areas in Wausau, are out of the question as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Committee members, any additional questions for Humane Officer Bishop? Okay. If not, and we have no additional questions and no additional witnesses, we can then convene in closed session to consider the hearing evidence. And if someone wants to read the closed session language on our agenda for today, we can convene in closed session. Do we have a volunteer?
I can do it.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to Section 19.851A of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering the following: deliberating concerning a case which was the subject of any judicial or quasi-judicial trial or hearing before the governmental body.
Okay, do we have a second for Pat's motion? Second by Herbst. Roll call vote. Kalbach? Aye. Herbst? Aye. Peckham? Aye. McElhaney? Aye. I'll vote aye as well. We'll convene in closed session in the Maple Room, and we'll return to this chamber with a decision following our deliberation. All right, let the record show the committee has reconvened in open session, and we'll read the findings of fact and conclusions of law as an outcome to our hearing for Christine Marie Clark and the dog Montana, a male black Labrador Retriever mix. Having heard the testimony at the hearing, July 15, 2019, the Public Health and Safety Committee for the City of Wausau does hereby make the following findings of fact and conclusions of law in the above referenced matter. First, the findings. Based on the testimony of the parties and the exhibits presented, the facts of the June 25, 2019 dangerous animal declaration of the City of Wausau, Chief of Police Benjamin Bliven, executed on his behalf by Lieutenant Melinda Pauls, are accepted as accurate and true. A copy of the dangerous animal declaration was served upon Christiana Cubero, a family member, and was issued consistent with the requirements of Wausau Municipal Code, Section 8.08.200, the Dangerous Animals Ordinance. We find that Christine Marie Clark, the owner, is the owner and keeper of Montana, a male black Labrador Retriever mix. The dog resides at 512 Hamilton Street, number 1 in Wausau. We find that on June 21st, 2019, Officer Joshua Bigger of the City of Wausau Police Department was dispatched to the Aspirus Wausau Hospital in response to a report of a dog bite to a child. Dispatch provided that the bite occurred at the Franklin Elementary School playground in the City of Wausau. We find that the police incident report number 19-5794 of Officer Bigger provided that upon responding to the hospital, Officer Bigger observed a child with an obvious wound to the outside of the right leg below the knee. The report related the wound was still actively bleeding, had at least 3 lacerations, each several inches long, and appeared to be well into the muscle tissue. The testimony of Officer Bigger at the hearing confirms the information set forth in his report. We find that further information documented in the report, which was provided to Officer Bigger by the victim, provides that the dog Montana was in the school playground with another child. The victim related to Officer Bigger that the dog was not on a leash and it ran up and bit the victim on the leg while the victim was riding a bicycle. The victim was able to get assistance, contacting the victim's mother, who then took the victim to the hospital. We find that while the testimony of the owner at the hearing was that the victim was challenging the owner's child to a race in the playground, there's not sufficient proof that this was other than a normal child-to-child interaction, and there does not appear to be anything threatening or provocative in the exchange. Officer Bigger took photographs of the injury as well as a photograph taken at the playground where blood had fallen from the victim's wound while the victim waited for the mother's arrival and still remained after the attack. These photos were reviewed by this committee. We find that at the time she spoke with Officer Bigger, as documented in his report, the owner stated she understood Montana had not been on a leash when at the playground. The owner further told Officer Bigger that when Montana was about a year old, the dog bit a child in Schofield, Wisconsin, as the child ran past Montana. According to the report, Officer Bigger provided that the owner and family believed that Montana, quote, had an issue with children running past it, so they made efforts to supervise the dog appropriately around children, end quote. The committee finds the following facts concerning: that notwithstanding the information in Officer Bigger's report that Montana's owner makes efforts to supervise the dog around children, Montana was at a school playground solely under the control of a young child with no adult supervision and was off-leash. The fact that the bite to the leg appears to be very severe, and the fact that the dog had bitten another child prior to this incident. Conclusions of law. Based upon the findings of fact listed above, Montana constitutes a dangerous animal as defined in the Wausau Municipal Code, Section 8.08.200 sub B, as an animal which bites, inflicts injury, attacks, or otherwise endangers the safety of human beings or domestic animals without provocation on public or private property. The committee concludes that Montana represents a risk to public safety if the requirements imposed as a result of the declaration are not upheld. The committee upholds the dangerous animal declaration of the Chief of Police on June 25th of 2019. The exhibits contained as part of the Public Health and Safety Committee packet are accepted as a part of the record in this matter. If you wish to further contest this determination, you may, within 5 days from the receipt of the written decision, seek a review of this decision in Marathon County Circuit Court. This declaration will be signed today, and you'll have a copy to take home with you. Oh, wait, I see one correction that needs to be made on that.
Oh, bummer.
I noted it as I was reading it here. Let me grab it.
Is that the 2 periods? Do you want me to? Oh. I'll reprint it?
Yep, just reprint one. And then I'll sign both of them and we'll send one home with Ms. Clark. We've got just one typo we'll fix and then sign it and send those home with you.
Oh, you need to get back onto here?
Yeah.
Shoot. Okay, I shut it down too. No, that's okay. Just. I'll let you sit there. Takes a lot for this thing to.
Okay, and while those printouts are printing, I'll sign those documents. One will be sent home with Ms. Clark, and then one will be retained also by the clerk as soon as those print out. In the interim, while we're waiting on the printer, I'll announce that we're going to withdraw for tonight item number 7, which is discussion and possible action regarding staff approval for special event applications. That event requires a little further research by the clerk's office, and so we'll bring that one back next month once it's a little further along in the research, so we won't act on number 7 tonight.
Which are you reading?
Item 7, staff approval for special events.
Weren't there several of them?
No, it was just a
It's a procedural suggestion, but the events to be approved have already happened. That took place before I got here tonight, the accept or deny licenses as recommended.
This
Okay.
is just to.
This is separate to change the process for the
Staff
approval.
approval process.
Yeah, so she's going to bring that one back once she's had a little more time to research a couple of points there. So we'll pull item 7.
Let's get a new computer that's faster.
Oh, okay. So he's 22? Okay, thanks. Good.
So with that, that wraps up the hearing, and that leaves us one agenda item tonight, which is tavern activities, compliance checks, and law enforcement activities. You've got that report in front of you. Notable on the report this month from the police department is that every month they conduct alcohol compliance checks where they have an underage person enter an establishment using their own ID, and if that person is then sold to, that results as a failed compliance check. And you'll note in the report, 2 establishments did not pass this month, and that then necessitates a 22% failure rate based on the number of establishments that they checked. When the underage person is served, obviously then demerit points are assessed to the establishment and the bartender, but it's worth noting that those 2 establishments did not pass those compliance checks. So if we continue to see an elevated failure rate on compliance checks, I think in the past we've directed the chief and the department to have dialogue with those establishments that didn't pass, or depending on if we can tell it's clearly more of a retail-based thing versus a Class B license type situation. Sometimes they've sent out letters, but I think now we'll kind of take a wait-and-see approach. But if it continues, it'll probably be something that we'll want him to talk about. Anything on the report that you want to talk with the chief about directly that you've seen at any of the establishments? There's some notes for, things that have taken place. And
Some crazy things that happen.
I see Whiskey River Bar and Grill made the list again.
Yeah, they were one of the establishments that failed the alcohol compliance checks, and just so the committee is aware, we began doing the alcohol compliance checks again last month. We hadn't done them for some time, so so we did begin doing those again, and that's why they're showing up in the report again. So.
Okay. All right, and but then, you've seen a number of things that they highlighted the new demerit points that were assessed, and other than that, we see in June of 2019 a new violation for 50 points at showtime for failure to summon police. That's always concerning. I think that, in your interaction with them, if you sense that they're reticent to call police when they need you, let us know, because that's why it's 50 points right off the bat, because we certainly want them to call, and we've met with other owners for that same exact problem. So
You bet.
Discouraging, but we'll keep an eye on that, I guess. Anybody else have anything that you want to talk with the chief about that's on the report?
I would just, on behalf of one member, thank the department for, I know that it's an extra chore to do those compliance checks, and you have to recruit a young person to do it and drive them around and blah, 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 but I think it's worth it, and I think that the citing of 2 establishments in the community, I'm pretty sure everybody serving alcohol in the city knows about those by now, so.
We call them compliance checks. They like to call them stings, but they're out there, and I'm glad that we do them. This is an example of why we do them, because not everyone would pass all the time, and by and large, most of our license holders and our servers get it right, but it's not fair to the ones who do it right and get it right to not hold people accountable when they don't. So with that, if we have nothing else to discuss with the chief, we'll place his report on file also. The last item on the agenda is communications. I have none. Does anyone have any communication? Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I don't want to embarrass, but it would be very remiss of me if I did not recognize and say thank you and happy birthday to Tara Alfonso for spending it with us tonight.
Oh, well, now that the secret's out, happy birthday, Tara.
I know, you better
He's going to run away now because he knows.
Gave him that look, don't you dare.
The stare. So, well, that's a happy ending to this meeting.
Thank
So
you,
happy
Mayor.
birthday. And with that, a motion to adjourn would be appropriate. Motion by Herb, second by Kelbach. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. We'll stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.